Hey everyone, I'm your host Marcus Norman of the Gentleman Style Podcast Show, and today we are going to talk about fitness, health, and I have the man, the expert here on the Gentleman Style Podcast Show today. He's going to spill some of the tea, all the tea, not all the tea, can't do all of that, but he's going to share and give some insight into weight loss, nutrition, health, and so we can all do better and live better lives. And you may recognize who this superstar who I'm about to bring to the stage in current Iron Man looks like the Incredible Hulk for those of you who are familiar. But stay tuned, stay with us. We'll be right back. Here we go. It's your host, Marcus Norman of Gentleman Style Podcast Show, and I have the incredible Mr. Jeff Later on the Gentleman Style Podcast Show today. And he is here to help people live a better life, level up, and find optimal ways to achieve health and better wellness. And this man, when you see him, when he comes to the stage, this man is living his absolute best life, but he's giving back and sharing and cultivating the minds of you, me, and everyone around him to live their absolute best life and to share that it's actually not impossible. So help me welcome to the stage. I can't hold this rock star back any longer, Mr. Jeff Later.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely. I'm excited to have you, sir. Thank you for being here. And like I said, the man is jacked. This man is incredible. I am slacking, Mr. Later. I apologize. But I mean,
no apology necessary.
I appreciate you. I mean to go to the gym after this show. So I'm gonna get right. I'm gonna fix it.
Cool. If that helps for motivation, then I'm glad I'm here. That's awesome.
It worked. But Mr. Later, diving right in. Why personal fitness? When did you realize that this is your path? Because you've won competitions, bodybuilding, lifting, various competitions. You've traveled the world, and now you're giving back to society. But when did you first notice, hey, I got something here. I can do something here?
That's a good question, because it was a passion that I had from a young age, but it's not something that I realized was going to be a career path for me until a little bit later in life. Just because I never considered fitness to be like a real career. It wasn't a real job. It's not a real way to make a living or support a family. And so it's not something that I pursued professionally until I was 30, honestly, maybe a little bit before that. I did personal training through college, but it was always kind of a side gig. It was never my primary employment. It was something I always did on the side, and pursued my own health and fitness, my own goals. And obviously I did compete in bodybuilding, and that was something that I was super passionate about, and I still am. But it wasn't until things kind of grew organically, just through helping other people, and they got great results and spread the word, and my passion grew from that. But it really did start with my own journey. I think it probably does for a lot of people. And then you develop a passion for it, and you see how it impacts the lives of others. And that really is, that's what drives me every day now.
And I appreciate that. And that makes so much sense, because that's true. Right. And I'm glad you was able to share that honesty about yourself, that you didn't realize that this was an actual career field for you. This was an actual profession that you could do long term. That's huge. I think most people are like that. They don't realize their innate gift. They don't have to later on. But how did you get your family on board? Right? How do people, if I'm struggling with weight gain, I'm struggling with weight loss, how do I get my family on board? Because I can't just do this by myself. I can cut all the stuff out. I can cut out all the bad foods and the exercising. But is there a way, a secret to get my family on board with me?
That is something that it does prove to be a challenge sometimes, because, I think food, for example, is something that we share socially, and something that some relationships are not necessarily built upon that, but it's something that they share together. And so if you choose to kind of flip the script and change maybe something that you shared together, like, hey, every Friday night we always go out for pizza. Honestly, like if you were working with me and you were a client of mine, I would say continue doing that, because it's the consequences of that impacting your marriage or your relationship would far outweigh the benefits of, improving your health. But the thing is it doesn't have to be one way or the other. And that's what I kind of discovered that the hard way, because as I pursued bodybuilding, I have a very OCD personality, and I went all in, and I probably went way too strict. In fact, I didn't eat anything that wasn't on my very specific meal plan for over 2 years at one point. Um, and I kind of drove myself a little bit crazy. Not that we need junk food or that we need to have a burger or our body needs to have pizza or anything like that. It was more the principle, and I just didn't have as much balance in my life, and I probably sacrificed more than was necessary to get the outcomes that I was after. So, how do you get your family on board? Involve them. I think if you do have a goal, like, hey, I want to lose X amount of weight, and you need, I would even have like an upfront discussion. If you have kids, if you have a spouse, say, this is something that's very important to me. I need your support. Will you support me? And if they truly do love you, then they will. So I think it really is. It's something that you need to kind of make a decision on together.
And that's fair. That's huge. That's fair. And because it's like I said, it's not a. I don't think it's a one in one journey. But what's the common denominator? What is the common thing? Because you coach to this, you and your team mentor people to get the best fitness results or achieve their fitness goals and results. What is the common denominator? What are you seeing out in the industry, out in the world, that's common to why people are struggling, losing weight, gaining weight, and living their best life? What's the consistent problem? Is it the diet? Is it the family not being on board, or is it maybe it's internal? It's me. I'm the problem, right? What's the common denominator that you've seen?
Well, that's it right there. You said at the end, you can look at different dieting tactics and all the different diets that come and go, keto, fasting, Atkins, blood type diet, HCG. There's been all sorts of things that have come and gone. But what's the trend? Are we getting leaner? Are we getting fitter? Are we getting healthier? No. In fact, life expectancy has actually gone down for the first time in the history of mankind. Life expectancy has gone down. And so obviously there is no such thing as a revolutionary diet, a new miracle weight loss fad that's going to all of a sudden improve the lives of others, because that's not the solution. Those are simply touching on the surface, and we do need a strategy. We need to have some knowledge of how to eat in a way that serves us, right? But that's not the reason why these diets don't work for us, because we all can lose weight, and everybody that's listening probably has lost weight. But if you're not where you're at, then you probably regained it, because that's what happens with almost everybody that tries a diet. In fact, the success rate of diets is abysmally low. I mean, it's like less than 5%, depending on how you judge it. And like, I mean, if I had a 5% chance of success, I don't know that I would attempt something, right?
True.
So the common denominator, though, is not necessarily the diets, or it's not like, oh, well, these guys involve carbs, and carbs are what makes us all fat. That's not true. So it's not necessarily that. It really is kind of what's going on between the ears. We tend to self-sabotage, and there's a lot of reasons as to why that happens, but we have so many different limiting beliefs and things that sometimes go way back to our childhood that have caused us to think that, weight loss is hard for me, or I'm not one that can be fit. I'm not one that's healthy. We have all these different identities that we have, and beliefs that we have about ourselves that limit us. I think sometimes people think it's willpower. It's not necessarily willpower. Willpower I think is part of it, but you can't rely upon that. But really it goes back to what's going on inside.
That's so true. I love that. I love that. I love that. And I think because you said it, it needed to be said. So thank you for saying that. Round of applause for Mr. Jeff Later, y'all. Powerful. Mr. Later, how did you come up with the name Later Lifestyle? Is it simply your name, or is there a meaning behind it? Is there a mantra behind this?
No, with the later part, that is just an acronym for my name, or not really an acronym. It's just a shortened version for my name. But the lifestyle part was important for us, that we incorporated that, because it really does need to be, like, as we're helping people make these transformations, making these shifts, it does need to become sustainable. And if it's sustainable, it has to be something we can live with, which means it needs to be a lifestyle. And that's why I said, like, with the, the first question going back to, if you, how to get your family on board, and if you have like a pizza tradition to eat that every Friday night, which I say that because that was kind of a tradition that I grew up with, is eating pizza every Friday night, usually very cheap delivery, $5 pizza. But it was something we look forward to as kids, and I kind of carried on. I have my kids eat pizza every Friday night. I get my kids donuts on the weekends. And it's something that I believe that if we start to demonize certain foods and we're like, oh, that's bad, this is good, this is approved, that's not approved, it can start to create a bad relationship with food, especially with at a young age with kids.
So wait a minute. I'm sorry. So your kids can eat pizza? Because that's what I think a lot of us think, that there are foods I cannot eat, or else I'm gonna gain weight. I'm gonna, whatever. I'm gonna be unhealthy. You're saying you can eat pizza and still be healthy?
Absolutely. Yeah.
What?
Yeah. I mean, the term, and you don't hear this as much anymore, but you're like, people used to say, oh, this food is fattening. Pizza is fattening. Really? Explain that to me. How is it fattening?
It's the oil, it's the sauce, it's the cheese, the cow, the beef, the pepperonis, right? No, the
Yeah.
dough.
Okay. So that's carbs, fats, and proteins,
Okay.
right? So, I mean, they may not be from the best sources, granted. Yeah.
Right.
Is it the best choice for you? No, it's probably, you're probably getting a lot of calories in a small package, and that's something to be aware of. But is it inherently bad? No, not really. It's just that it is, we can overeat with that type of food because it is so calorically dense, right? So if we eat a lot of calorie, or eat, it could be not very filling, and so we could eat a whole pizza and we're like, okay, now I'm full, but at that point you've blown your calories out the window, right? Well, me too, yeah, dozen donuts, you got it. I've taken that down. um, but it is just food, and it's calories in the end. In order for someone to actually gain fat, they have to be in a caloric surplus, which means they're consuming more calories than they're burning. So yeah, if that's true, then it may not even be the pizza that did it. I mean, that may have contributed to your caloric intake for the day, but maybe you ate an apple earlier in the day and you had a protein shake and you ate, chicken breast and stuff like that, and all these like good healthy foods. You can still gain fat eating healthy foods too. It's no different. It's just that it'll take more volume because they're not as calorically dense.
Gotcha. Love it, love it, love it, sir. Sir, we gotta talk about the website. This website is fantastic, and so
Oh,
I
thank you.
wanna, if I could go through a quick tour with you. What can someone expect when signing up for the later lifestyle? And I'm gonna bring this on the screen here, but this is the website. It looks absolutely fantastic. Him and his team. I mean, there's a consultation piece. Look at that, 6,329 plus clients satisfied to date. Sir, what can someone expect when they walk through the door and sign up? What should they expect?
Very professional experience. I mean, we've been doing this for a long time, and we started from humble beginnings. I mean, we literally, it was my wife and I, we founded this together, and we used to meet with people in person because an online coach was not a thing when I started. And we met with people at our kitchen table because we didn't have an office. I didn't even have an office set up at my house. We had no space. We sat around the kitchen table and talked about nutrition and fitness. And so we've evolved greatly since then. We have a team of about 15 now, 15, 14, something like that. And all very, very passionate about what we do. We're constantly learning. I mean, what can somebody expect? Results, but practical results. And what I mean by that is that they're going to be able to live life and still get fit, because that's important. I think one thing that happens when people go down the dieting rabbit hole is uh, they commit to things that they can't stick to,
Mm.
and so the saying, if you can't do it for a decade, then don't do it for a day, needs to be considered. And so if you choose to go on the ketogenic diet, you need to ask yourself, can you go your whole life without carbs? And I think the answer to that for most people is like, no, I'm just going to do that to lose the weight. You
Right.
know what the success rate for keto is? It's like 2 or 3%. It's lower than the average. And historically, and among all of the diets, it is one of the most strict diets out there. It's one of the strictest. It's crazy that it's as popular as it is, but it's because, and I mean, it's completely understandable as to why it is, because when you remove carbs from your diet, you're going to lose water. But why do you lose water? Well, what's the last half of the word of carbs? Carbohydrates. Because when you consume carbs, it actually helps, your body will store about 2 to 3 grams of water for every gram of carbs that you consume. Most people don't know that. Now, it's not water retention in a negative sense. It's just water retention as in normal body water levels. We all have body water. We're mostly made up of water. So when that goes down, you're going to lose weight, and that happens when you remove carbs. So that's the enticement. That's the carrot that's dangled in front of us with keto. But what happens when we stop the ketogenic diet? Well, we reintroduce carbs, typically at a rate that's much more than we can tolerate. Our sensitivity to carbs is extremely enhanced. And we usually don't process them and digest them as well because we've gone too long without them. And usually we've lost muscle in the process too. And that's kind of an internal thing that most people would never be aware of unless they were getting a very in-depth body composition test like a DEXA scan. So to put that in perspective, let's say you lose 30 pounds in 30 days. Okay. Let's say 10 of those pounds are water. It's pretty easy to assume. And let's say 10 of those pounds are body fat. Cool. We lost 10 pounds of fat, 10 pounds of water. We're down 20 pounds, but then there's an extra 10 pounds that came from somewhere. Where did that come from? Muscle. Why would that come from muscle? Because in order to be in ketosis, you can't consume a lot of protein, because protein in and of itself is insulinogenic, which means when you consume protein, insulin spikes. So people think that, I think people have this impression of the ketogenic diet. It's like a lot of meat and a lot of fat. It's very little meat. In fact, it's low to moderate amounts of protein, high fat, and 0 carbs. And since typically you're eating such a low amount of protein that you're not able to support the muscle mass that you have. That may not sound like a big deal, right? Because it's like, well, I don't want to be a bodybuilder like you, Jeff. I'm just an average guy. I just want to look hot in my jeans, whatever,
All the wrong reasons, right?
Yeah, well, everyone has whatever floats your boat, right? But you should never want to lose muscle mass, because muscle is very highly, it's very highly calorically active. It's costly. And so the more muscle we have, the more calories we burn. So it's metabolically active tissue that if we lose it, our metabolic rate decreases. And so when you gain those 30 pounds back, again, you lost 10 pounds of fat, 10 pounds of water, 10 pounds of muscle. When you gain the 30 pounds back, you're going to get those 10 pounds of water back. You're going to get those 10 pounds of fat back, but you're not going to get the 10 pounds of muscle back unless you all of a sudden just spontaneously started working out like crazy and ate enough protein, which is not what typically post keto dieters do. And so that extra 10 pounds, even if you just end up, I'm back to square one. No, you're not. You're back to square -10, because now you have 10 additional pounds of body fat that you've stored, because that 10 pounds of muscle that you lost was replaced with body fat. And you have a crippled metabolism because of it.
Because you lost muscle.
Because you lost muscle. And, probably the extreme nature of the number of calories you were eating as well. Your body adapts to that in a negative way. Hormones decrease.
Does the later lifestyle adapt literally to someone's lifestyle? So if I'm vegan, or if I have a pescatarian diet or a vegetarian diet, or is there a formula a consultation with meal prepping or food planning or food coordination in the later lifestyle program?
We do. Everything is adapted to the person. It's all customized and personalized. And there's a lot of people that say customized, and I think customized can be viewed in a couple different ways. I think customized would be, well, okay, you're a 40-year-old man that's 200 pounds, 5'10", and have X amount of body fat, and you're sedentary during the day. So like the basic stats, right? Okay, that's better than just saying male or female, or just like, here's a generic cookie cutter plan. But it doesn't take into account your dieting history. It doesn't take into account what your food preferences are. And I think that's important when you're looking at what you're signing up to eat on a daily basis, or at least on a regular basis. Because if you're eating food that you hate, do you think you're going to stick to that? Even if it gives you results, I guarantee you won't. I have met some really strong-willed people that refuse to add in any sort of variety into their diet, and they can stick with it for a while, but at some point they break. But most people break well before that. So you have to have something that is suited for you, but also designed to help you get results. And it's just going to make it more sustainable, more likely to stay consistent with it. And that is important, because if you can't stay consistent, you could have the most perfectly written diet plan written by, someone way smarter than myself. But if you can't stick to it, that diet plan's not going to work for you. And that's not a good diet plan at all, because you can't stick to it. So I would rather you do something. And if that means that you I just can't live without my pizza on Friday nights. And because you can't have your pizza on Friday nights, you end up binging every night at midnight because you wake up hungry. And so if we can allow a few exceptions here and there, or even teach you how to incorporate those things, so it's not even an exception, it's just part of your plan. I've had pizza on plans before. I've had Coke on plans before, real Mountain Dew with the full sugar on plans before. I've had all sorts of things on plans that you wouldn't consider to be diet foods, and people get excellent results. Why? Because they can stick to it. And that's important, that consistency and that perseverance.
That's later, y'all. Told y'all, the man, the myth, the legend here is spilling the tea. Well, not a legend, but we have to go to a quick commercial break. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. Stay tuned.
If you're looking for a reliable, professional trucking and logistics service, you've come to the right place. Musa Trucking is a veteran-owned and operated premier transportation provider that can help with all of your trucking and logistics needs. Musa is revolutionizing the trucking industry through strategic partnerships, the development of core personnel, and the use of cutting-edge technology. Our inventory system ensures that cargo ends up divided into the right trucks and reaching the correct destination. Our drivers are dedicated to transporting goods efficiently and safely. Contact us today to get started by visiting the website on the screen or by calling 757-756-5246.
We are back, ladies and gentlemen, with the incredible Jeff Later. And he just broke down the Later lifestyle and how this sounds to me like a A to Z. It's not just a one and done. We meet up, I kill you to half to death, and then I send you on your way home. This sounds like the real deal Holyfield, that it's a lifestyle, and they're with you, Mr. Jeff and his team, Mr. Later and his team, they're with you every step of the way. And if you missed that, scroll back and check him out in the beginning. We are on all social media platforms, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and wherever, Audible, Spotify, wherever you get your audio media today. So Mr. Later, you spilled the tea that I can actually eat the things that I want. I don't actually have to get rid of these incredible diets. And your company, your team tailors the actual the diet plans to, I could be vegan, I could be pescatarian. I think that's huge. What's the missing enigma when it comes to weight loss or weight gain? Because everybody's different. You said that earlier. What do I need to do? What improvements can I make today on my own to either gain weight or lose weight? If you could share those.
Well, I think we have to kind of look at like many of the reasons as to why we fail. And I talked about initially, there's a lot of mindset involved, but there's a lot of other things too that cause us that have an impact on our mindset. So sometimes I would say this is very, very common. For one, we get caught up in the comparison syndrome, where we're starting to compare our journey to somebody else's, which is very dangerous because it's usually apples to oranges, and you don't know what's going on behind the scenes. We're exposed to so many people's highlight reels on social media, and we might see their process or their progress and compare it to ours. And that can be discouraging or encouraging. Most of the time it's discouraging. And then sometimes too, we get caught up in the outcome. And this applies to all things, not just fitness, but we worry so much about what it is that we are aiming for. So if I have the goal to lose 100 pounds and I'm putting in the work, I'm 2 weeks in and I've lost 2 pounds. I'm like, oh my gosh, only lost 2 pounds in 2 weeks and I have 98 more pounds to go. Are you saying that I have to go 98 more weeks of this? Yeah, no, I'm just going to stop. And so many people have that mentality, right? Because they're starting to project that out and extrapolate that out in time. They're like, oh my gosh, this is going to take, whoa, that's more time than I'm willing to put into this. And the thing is that, that rate could improve. It could pick up. It could slow down. There's a lot of things that impact that. But really, the biggest thing to focus on is just what you need to do today. Just take it one day at a time. And start incorporate small things into your life rather than jumping into the deep end with waders on your feet, which is what most people do. And they drown and they don't make it. They give up. Whereas you just need to take little steps, incorporate new things, new habits into your life and make it a progression. So like that, I mean, that's what we do. I mean, it depends on where somebody's at. If somebody's already deep into their journey, then we'll meet them where they're at and we go from there. But it needs constant modification because as our bodies adapt, we need to change and we need to do things to prevent any sort of adverse metabolic effects that can come from dieting that are normal and natural, but they can be very detrimental to our overall health and the overall outcome if we don't mitigate them at all, which honestly, no plans out there do. It's a big problem. It's why we gain it back. It's one of the reasons why we gain it back. So, it's kind of a psychological thing, but, I have a story about this actually, where I had 2 guys join right around the same time, and they were both about 280 pounds. One was in his 30s, one was in his 20s. Now, after the first week, the guy in his 20s, he lost 14 pounds. The guy in his 30s, he lost 2 pounds. And this was obviously very, very encouraging for the younger guy because 14 pounds in 1 week, holy crap, this isn't going to take me very long at all. The other guy, he was happy with 2 pounds. He wasn't really discouraged. He had no idea about the other guy. And the next week, younger guy loses 1 pound. So he lost 14 pounds the first week, 1 pound the second week. The second guy, the guy in his 30s, lost another 2 pounds. Still way far behind the other guy. And I think, the first guy that lost all that weight the first week, he did it pretty easily. He had some pretty bad habits and stopped some of those. And I think he picked some of them back up because he thought it was so easy. Flash forward 6 months. Younger guy in his 20s, down overall 17 pounds. Second guy, down 60 pounds. Took it one day at a time and stayed consistent. And look how far he got. So that sometimes we don't keep our eyes on. Sometimes we need to be looking like just at the steps that we're taking right in front of us rather than looking up. It's kind of like if you look up when you're walking, you're going to trip over shit in front of you, and that's kind of what happens with our goals oftentimes. And it's not just fitness; it's other things. I mean, if you're starting a business and you're worried about like, oh my gosh, all these other people are doing so amazing, I'm doing terrible. So like we start to compare, or we start to think like, oh, like I only made $100 this week and I have this goal of being $1 million company and I'm never going to get there. And all of a sudden we don't incorporate the small things that we need to do that are going to lead to those outcomes. We're just focused on the outcome, which is the wrong thing to focus on. We need to focus on the processes that we need to incorporate, the habits that we need to incorporate. If you do that, the results will take care of themselves. That's a given, but we don't see that most of the time.
Makes sense. Mr. Lader, what should someone have when they come to your website and they find you and your team? What should they have ready to prepared to go into a session? Because these are all online. There's no in-person coaching, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
An open mind. I think if they're willing to accept guidance from somebody else and they're coachable, then and they're willing to persevere, they'll have results. It's guaranteed.
That's huge. What advice would you say to that young person, that young girl, that young boy, or that older gentleman or that older lady whose back is against the wall and they're scared and they don't know if later lifestyle can fit their lifestyle but they know they need to lose weight or they need to gain weight? What would you say to that young boy or young girl? You've dropped so many nuggets today. What would you say to them?
Well, especially in the fitness world, there are so many different programs, so many different diets to choose from, a lot of different people like me out there. I think there has to be a good connection. I think that our message has to resonate with them. And if it doesn't, then yeah, we wouldn't want you to sign up. It's got to be a good fit. I mean, we really are, we're a relationship-based coaching company. Meaning that we create good relationships with our clients, because the better that we know you and the better insight we have on your thought processes and what's going on in your life, the more effective we're going to be at helping you navigate your way through it and come out on the other side healthier and more empowered. And so, that connection, I think, has to be there. And I mean, we do a consultation call, which is more like an interview, to make sure that it is a good fit.
Perfect. Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Get connected. How can people connect with you? How can people find you and get on board with what you're doing?
They're welcome to. Honestly, the easiest way is probably to find me on Instagram. I'm always posting content on there. And my screen name is just at jefflater.com or sorry, just at jefflater, JEFFLATER. You can actually go to jefflater.com too. And that will take you to all my links. But my company website is Later Lifestyle or laterlife.com. Either one will work. And the later is L8 as in the number R. So L8R Lifestyle.com or L8RLife.com.
Love it. Love it. Thank you, Mr. Later. Thank you for making time today. This has been fantastic. So get that website back up there. And thank you for being here and giving back in this way. This is phenomenal, sir. I want to say this to you publicly. Don't give up. Don't give up on us because we need you. We need you. We are not living well. We're not living our best lives, and we're losing the health race. And so we need you. So please don't give up.
Well, thank you for having me. And honestly, that would be my message to everybody too, is don't give up. Don't ever stop taking care of yourself. Persevere. You have one body. Take care of it. Live your best life.
Absolutely. And if you're not living your best life, connect, please. If you can't, if you remember nothing, get in contact with me and I will get you in contact with Mr. Later and his team. Thank you again. Thank you all, my audience, for tuning in to the Gentleman Style Podcast Show. I hope this message was helpful. I hope this was informational, and I hope this helps you level up and realize that you are the most important thing. So you need to do this. You need to take the action, the steps, so you can live a much better life and live a longer life by taking care of your health. So get with Mr. Later and his team. They're changing lives, literally. You saw the numbers on the website. Lives, thousands and thousands of lives every single day. So get on board. Like I end every show, because we got to let Mr. Later go. He has a company to run, and I got a marathon to run myself after this. That's why I got my sweats on. I'm going to the gym, y'all. I'm committed. See that?
Love it.
But like I said, take care of your friends, take care of your family, and always, always take care of business. This is Marcus Norman of Gentleman Style Podcast Show, your favorite host, and Mr. Jeff Later signing off.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
That's it. Bye.